The tanker Bluebird came from Ceuta in Spain and drove to Hamburg. Built in 2011, she is 128 meters long and 20 meters wide. Coming from Hamburg was the vehicle carrier Malacca Highway. She is 24 years old and measures 139 to 23 meters. The feeder ship Panda 002 is 141 meters long, has a beam of 22 meters, and was built in 2007. She was underway to Rotterdam. The freighter Scanfiel is 40 years old. Her length is 85 meters, her beam 16 meters. She was underway to Tiburon in Denmark. Time to say goodbye to the Singapore Express from Hapag-Lloyd, because from now on, she only will visit Bremerhaven and Wilhelmshaven. Singapore Express was built in 2024, is 400 meters long and has a beam of 61 meters. She came from Hamburg and drove to Southampton in England. The 2010-built Santa Marta Express showed herself in nice new red painting. The vessel is 210 meters long, 30 meters wide, and was on her way to Rotterdam. This is Ida Rambo, an 18-years-old feeder. She has a length of 149 meters, a beam of 23 meters, and came from Bremerhaven. On tour from Butzfleth to Riga in Latvia was the LPG tanker Kapagas. Her size is 108 to 17 meters, and she was built in 2001. The container ship Milan Mærsk is 399 meters long and 59 meters wide. She came from Hamburg. Her destination port was Thames in Great Britain. Milan Mærsk was built in 2017. It was a cold and grey Easter Sunday. Then a single ship came by in her private sun gap on her way from Rotterdam Maasvlakte to Hamburg. She was the HMM Oslo, a container ship that was built in 2020. Her length is 400 meters, her beam 62 meters. Easter Monday started grey and May. Then the crude oil tanker STI Symphony came by on her way to for orders. Her length is 249 meters, her beam 44 meters, and she was built in 2016. The freighter Capella was on her way to Foynes in Ireland. Built in 1999, she is 89 meters long and 13 meters wide. At afternoon, it became more friendly. Then the bulk carrier Indian Friendship showed up on the Elbe. Her size is 292 to 45 meters. She is 12 years old and came from Narvik in Norway. Coming from Tanninger in Norway was the feeder Silver Mary. Her length is 113 meters, her beam 23 meters, and she was built in 2005. Meanwhile, it had become evening when the cruise ship Ida Perla came down the Elbe from Hamburg. As she belongs to the Hyperion class from Aida, the ship is 300 meters long and 38 meters wide. She was built in 2017 by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in Nagasaki in Japan. Her destination was Eidfjord in Norway. Not long after the Aida Perla followed the smaller high-class cruise ship Silver Dawn that was built in 2021. Her length is 213 meters, her beam 27 meters, and her tour went from Hamburg to Copenhagen in Denmark. During these shots, a heavy cloudburst began. This gave the Silver Dawn a light bell and me a fast-flowing stream of rainwater within my coat. But that was worth it. The day started misty. It wasn't cold, but the view was limited. Then the CMA-CGM Dolphin came by. She is a container ship that was built in 2007, is 294 meters long and 32 meters wide. For a while she had laid in the roadstead. Now she was driving to Hamburg. Then also the MSC Ronit R came by. She also measures 294 to 32 meters. She was built in 2005 and came from Bremerhaven. At afternoon it got nicer. From Wilhelmshaven came Empire, a 16-year-old feeder that measures 170 to 25 meters, and drove to Hamburg. The tanker Lotus drove to Sarpsborg in Norway. Her length is 88 meters, her beam 13 meters. She was built in 2004. Fenja was on tour from Kiel to Hamburg. She is 138 meters long, 22 meters wide, and 22 years old. At late morning she had lied at anchor for a while near Brunsbüttel. Another feeder, this time Heinrich. This vessel is 152 meters long, 23 meters wide, and was built in 2012. She drove with 11.1 knots from Bremerhaven to Hamburg. The 9-year-old MSC Elmer came from Thames in Great Britain up the Elbe. The ship has a length of 300 meters, a beam of 48 meters, and was driving to Hamburg. Gioconda is a 2018-built chemical tanker. Her size is 110 to 18 meters. She was underway to Sluiskil in the Netherlands. From Kotka in Finland came Elbwave. This container ship is 14 years old, 152 meters long, and 23 meters wide. Judith was sailing to Bremerhaven, has a size of 170 to 25 meters, and was built in 2008. Also on tour to Bremerhaven was America, a 334 meters long and 43 meters wide container ship. She was built in 2004. Overnight, the wind had shifted to east, so on the next day we had clear view. But it was cold. The LNG-powered, 400 meters long CMA-CGM Montmartre came from Rotterdam Maasvlakte with destination Hamburg. She was built in 2021 and has a beam of 61 meters. The Sea Adler is a fishery patrol vessel of the German Coast Guard. She is 25 years old, 72 meters long and 13 meters wide. She came from Rostock, where she is usually deployed, and drove to the shipyard in Wewelsfleth for repairs. This is the One Triumph, a triumph of pink. The ship formerly drove for the shipping company MOL. Built in 2017, she has a length of 400 meters and a beam of 59 meters. Her tour went to Hamburg. She came from Rotterdam Maasvlakte. In the evening then, the Mærsk Bintan came by, a Mærsk brown ship with blue ornaments. The Mærsk Bintan was built in 2008, is 224 meters long and 32 meters wide. Her destination was Tanger Med. Coming from Hamburg was the cruise ship Idabella. She was built in 2008 by the Meyer shipbuilding yard in Papenburg in Germany. Idabella belongs to the Sphinx class from Ida and is the ship on which I made my only cruise at the Canary Islands. She is 252 meters long, 38 meters wide, and drove here to Kristiansand in Norway. The freighter Golden Karoo came from Rotterdam Waalhaven, is 12 years old, and has a size of 200 to 31 meters. And so we are at the end for today. I hope you enjoyed it with me on the river. Until next time, says your Bavarian on the Elbe.